Hey, legal rebels, this is Tom Martin. I'm the founder of LawDroid, and this is my podcast, LawDroid Manifesto, where I interview legal innovators about how they do what they do. In this episode, I interview Antti Innanen, co-founder of Legit and author of the upcoming book Prompted, whose infectious curiosity and hands-on approach to AI experimentation is empowering legal professionals to embrace technology and transform how they deliver more accessible, human-centered legal services. Hey there, and welcome to the LawDroid Manifesto podcast. I'm your host, Tom Martin. Very excited today to have on the show Antti Innanen. He is a force of nature, really. I've been so impressed by this young man and all of the different interests and pursuits that he has, including being the co-founder of Legit. He's written a book, Prompted, that's coming out that I'm really looking forward to reading. Hopefully, have a chance to see Antti and have him autograph it. But if you could tell us a little bit about what you're up to now. You're actually not currently in Finland. You are where?
Yeah, I'm originally from Finland, now living in sunny Alicante in Spain. So that's where the home base is. And thanks for having me, Tom. Really happy to be here. And yeah, let's do this.
You know, I'm so happy that we got to connect. Part of the beauty of these podcast episodes is I get to know my guests a lot better. And honestly, I've been, watching what you've been up to. I think that your point of view about artificial intelligence and the way that you're encouraging people to engage with it, play with it, be curious. Also, the recent work that you've been doing on agents is fascinating. Can you give us a little bit of a highlight or preview about that?
Yeah, of course. So I'm probably doing like 4 or 5 things at once, which is a little bit of a curse of being someone who likes build things. But yeah, let me try to make sense of it. Maybe at the core, there's a firm called DOT, which is the legal design and legal innovation firm that we're working with. And we work with clients on making, legal systems, legal processes, documents more human-centered, more accessible, perhaps a little less alienating. And apart from that one, then there's Legit, which is the AI studio. And that's really grown out of everything that I've learned about legal design and legal innovation and applying that to AI. And we do consulting, education. I have a book coming out now, so we are focusing on that now. And AI is kind of at the core of everything what we do. And then apart from that one, I also own or co-own a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym. And I teach a little bit of jiu-jitsu here in Alicante too. And yeah, that's also like a fun thing to do, something that I'm really, really into. Perhaps not the best business to start a gym during COVID times, but it is what it is now. But at least we're having fun, and now things are picking up also on that front.
And you're a black belt, right?
Yes, I'm a black belt. I teach here too. I teach in Spanish, which is a funny thing. Like, I'm from Finland. Of course, I don't like, my street level Spanish is fine, but it's not on that level where I could like tell an engaging story or anything like that. But I know quite a lot of these like weird words, like choking people out or arm locking people, but they are not very useful in everyday life when I go to Mercadona to buy milk or something like that. But it's funny that I've learned these all jiu-jitsu words here in Spain, but not much else than that.
That sounds, I mean, it's a good learning opportunity. They might, those phrases might not come in handy at the market. You're right. Yeah, my wife and I recently visited Madrid and love Spain. I think you had mentioned before we started that you get 300 days of sunny Spain. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah, opposed to Finland where we get 0 days of sun every year, right? So it's
Yeah.
totally opposite of Finland. I love both countries, but I think that I'm not really complaining about staying in sunny Spain at the moment. it. So life is good.
Well, and about life being good. Most of the people that watch this know I love to get into people's backstory and understand their origin story, what kind of motivated them, early influences and things like that. And so I would like, to take the stuff about AI, and we'll get to that. We're going to come back to
Mm.
that, everyone, so don't worry. Uh, but I would like to learn more about where you grew up. Where did you grow up?
I mean, I grew up in Turku, Finland, small town in southern Finland. Pretty, safe, nice, cool childhood, and attended University of Turku also. But maybe my origin story in law and legal innovation is like I was a bad student. Really bad grades. I didn't really fit into the traditional education system at all. I was more of a like a skater, snowboarder type of dude. Just wasn't so interested maybe in education, and I actually dropped out of university. I started studying philosophy first, and didn't feel right for me at the time, and I maybe didn't see my future as philosophy teacher. And I felt kind of bad about it. I felt ashamed about it that I was a philosophy dropout. That's a like classic one, because that's kind of like ironic because those things that I was really ashamed of maybe that I didn't graduate from a cool university or I didn't I graduated with bad grades and I wandered a little bit here and there, kind of became my superpowers also. Those things that, really have helped me in my career. So, being a bad student, a little bit like a skater misfits, was actually like a fun trajectory in my later career. So maybe that's the origin story. Like I'm from a small Finnish town, and then from bad grades, bad student, a little bit like wandered around, then stumbled upon all these like wonderful things, and then it took from there.
Well, if you don't mind, let's unpack that a little bit. First off, like Turku, what is it like? Like, you said the south of Finland, so it's not too far from Helsinki, right? Or
No, no, no. It's still a city, like I was still, I felt like I was a city boy still, and it's like it's difficult to describe your childhood because that's the only thing that you really know. So I don't know how of course, through my kids, I'm now experiencing their childhood here in Spain, and things are a little bit different. And but so many things have happened also before that with like smartphones or AI or computers or something like that. So I can't really imagine, any other kind of childhood. I just remember that we had bikes and we biked everywhere and life was pretty like carefree. This is a small city boy. My mother was a lawyer and my father was a student, principal at a school. So pretty safe, pretty normal middle class childhood. Just in general, most of my time, days were either snowboarding or skateboarding or doing that kind of stuff.
so would you say that one would think, like, superficially, that because your mom was a lawyer, that influenced you
Mm,
to eventually
mm.
do that, and your father being a principal, how did they, influence you? Like, did they were they like nudging you towards doing certain things, or like did you have your own point of view, which it sounds like, about what you wanted to do? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I fought against it. Like, I guess my mother always wanted me to become a lawyer, and that felt like a safe option back then. And I really struggled. I really rebelled against it. I never thought I would end up being in a law school. And even when I was in law school, I thought that this is not for me. But maybe it was because back then, I had an idea what is to be a lawyer or what is to be a legal professional. And turns out that I was just completely wrong about my ideas of what is to be a lawyer or what is to be a legal professional. Like there is still room for misfits or creative people or people who think a little bit differently. So it wasn't so much the education, but it was my own attitude perhaps towards the education that was difficult because I struggled. I wanted to rebel against my parents. I wanted to rebel a little bit against uh, the legal system also and the idea of what was it to be a legal professional. But in the end, I realized maybe it was just me. I was wrong. Like there is still room in this business for people who think a little bit different. there's room for this kind of diversity also. And when I've grown up a little bit, I'm perhaps a little bit more mellow in my thoughts. I'm not such a weirdo anymore with my ideas.
Well, I also identify with, the feeling of being an outsider sometimes. And I think it also gives you like an interesting point of view to see things
Mm,
kind of fresh that other people might not see it that way.
sure.
Did you come from a big family? Did you have a lot of brothers and sisters?
No, not really. No, no. And I didn't have like I had those people who I obviously like look up to, and I had that kind of like people that were kind of like trailblazing this idea also. But in terms of like legal innovation or legal design or AI, these are all very, very new things. So these became my thing just later on in my career. But yeah.
So, for example, like when you decided to go to law school, was there anybody there that kind of gave you a perspective or like a different way of seeing things that maybe made it feel like okay to be,
Mm,
different?
mm, mm. No, when I think about this is maybe like one of the origin stories of like before I was a lawyer, I really wanted to be a music producer. Like I mean I really wanted to be a music producer. And I spent like all my teenage years like waiting, like literally years. Like I had this story in my head, like how it should happen. Like some established producer would just notice my talent or bring me in or they mentor me or I learn in a fancy studio under somebody's wing. And that's how I thought like real producers were made, right? Like that was my idea. And I waited for it and it never happened. I never met anybody who could help me or who would even own a studio.
Hmm.
And I was just waiting for something to happen. And then nothing happened year after year. One day I just decided like screw it, I'm done waiting. I took a small loan under my own name and I bought all kinds of music equipment that I could find. And I just started trying stuff. I started producing in secrecy. Of course, I didn't dare to publish it to anybody, but there was no mentor, no permission, no validation from anybody. And at first it was kind of like scary, but then I started actually liking my stuff. I thought like, okay, this is kind of cool. Like I'm kind of like enjoying my own beats here. And then I started sending them out to people. And actually, like I sent the physical CDs, the old school, like old
Yeah.
school CDs, beat CDs, and I emailed them to different artists and rappers, and then just cold emails, and they just responded like, "Okay, sounds good. Let's make a song together." I was like, "Is it really this simple? Like, is this like I waited for this one? It's like really so simple that I just do stuff and then send emails or beat CDs, and then people will respond like." Let's do something together. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was like something that really changed my mindset. And I couldn't believe how easy it was. So I had wasted like several years of asking these like permissions or waiting for somebody to bring me in or drag me to the studio or something like that. But then I realized like I don't really need anybody. I don't need any permissions. And with that formula, I've done a lot of shit. I founded law firms, started like movements, released my own music. My career as a music producer was very short-lived, so it didn't become a thing. But the actual idea of like not asking permission so much, that's something that I've carried with myself since then. And that's to answer your question a little bit. Like I didn't have any like real mentors. I didn't have like anybody who would like pull me in. Of course, I had my mother who was a lawyer, but also she was doing different kind of like legal work that I'm doing at the moment. I've used this formula like just do stuff, tell people about it, and just hope that they are feeling the same kind of like energy as you are without any permissions.
I think that's a fantastic lesson and one to share is that, I think a lot of us, especially lawyers, feel that it needs to be buttoned up, it needs to be perfect, it needs to, like you can't share it with anyone until it's 100%. And, sharing the journey, the messiness, the lessons learned, it's all part of it. and anyone can do it. Like you just need to, you know, you just need to be brave and throw yourself out there and experiment.
Yeah, absolutely. And the people who wait for these perfect conditions, who wait for this kind of permission, they're waiting usually for something that never comes. And I think this is also like a good lesson. It was a really good lesson for me. Just stop wasting my time, stop trying to be perfectionist, and just do something and then communicate about it, and people will reach out to you, or people will feel the same kind of energy. And that has worked really well for me, and that's what I encourage also to for like students to do. Like if you just send somebody an email or like a DM in LinkedIn, they will probably respond. If they don't, so what? It's very easy to meet new people, to get introduced to new people, to start new things. You want to do something, just start something. Like you know, that's maybe the modus operandi at the moment.
Well, tell me a little bit about maybe the first step, like daughter attorneys.
Yeah, yeah.
How did that come together?
I mean, very much with the same formula. I was a little bit older associate at a bigger law firm, and then I just started to think that it would be so maybe like a childish idea. Like it would be fun to have your own law firm and test out your own ideas if they would actually work. Because I saw so much like inefficiencies and so many things that people didn't like really enjoy the work, and maybe there were like hierarchies, and me being like a natural like misfit, I thought like this could be done better, not necessarily in a more efficient or better way in terms of like the quality of legal services, but in a just more fun way, more engaging way, so that people could be happier when they're working, and they could actually like enjoy what they're doing. And so we started with this kind of like a little bit like strange idea, and then it became a thing. It became very powerful, and the idea itself drew a lot of very talented lawyers to our firm, and the firm is still doing really really well. And I scaled the firm a little bit, so we went from one person to 40 really really quickly. But
Wow.
at the same time, I scaled myself out of the firm a little bit. So that was a bummer. I actually quit working in Dotter because I didn't like. I felt like it's becoming something else that I wanted, and I maybe realized that the things that I was interested in, that were my dreams, weren't perhaps the dreams that the community had. So the community, took over in a way, and they spat me out. But in the end, I was quite happy about it. Also, I scaled myself away from the firm, but they're doing really, really well at the moment, and I think that they're still one of the best, if not the best, law firm in the Nordics. So a lot of love for them still.
What's one example of like one of the things you implemented within the law firm of like maybe just enjoying yourself more? Like like what was one of
Mhm.
those things that you did that gave life to that?
Well, this is not like something that that we had good food in the fridge or shorter days or something like that. This is like a little bit different because we started with the idea of employing other people than lawyers also in a law firm, right? Like in a regular firm, it doesn't sound groundbreaking, but for a law firm to employ like designers, for example, that's really something like special, right? So we
Mhm.
started with the idea that maybe we could employ different kind of people than just lawyers also. Maybe there could be like tech people, or maybe there could be designers or something like that. And that made the work very enjoyable for me too, that kind of diversity. And now I think that they've become more of a traditional law firm, but it was really fun to experiment with these kind of like things. That made it very very enjoyable, at least for me. I don't know if it was for everybody else,
Yeah.
but I really felt like we were doing something different just by combining different expertises and different kind of like personalities together.
You know what? Like that diversity of thought, I think is undervalued sometimes because we get into our own silos and sometimes we can't see beyond it. And
Sure.
so that sounds great. A way to expand people's minds.
Yeah, and if you think of it, like if you take three talented lawyers and lock them in a room and give them like I don't know, maybe there will be like a terms of service or something like that. But if you include like let's say there's one lawyer, one designer, and one service designer, you get totally different outcomes from that kind of group. And in a way, I don't know if we should act like sometimes when I see law firms that already have 200 lawyers recruiting more lawyers, and I'm like,
Mhm.
do you really need that flavor more? Wouldn't it be good? Like, you already have 200 lawyers, right? You obviously have like top level legal expertise already. So why not try something else, right? Maybe like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like a tech people or designer or I don't know, something else.
So
Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you? Like that kind of like idea that law firms are full of lawyers, which is a weird idea for me. Like if you look at software firms, they're not full of coders. There are plenty of people who do different roles too.
right, product designers, uh,
Yeah, for sure.
artists. Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of a weird thing. That I think when you're in it, it just seems like, well, of course there's lawyers in the law firm, right? Um, it takes that outsider eye, to see that differently. And with that, you went on and you founded several things. You have Motivus, Legit, and Dot Legal, like
Yeah.
on top of the jujitsu.
I mean, I asked for a loan from a bank, and I had to explain like half an hour of these like different things that I'm doing to just
Yeah.
to kind of like map it out a little bit. And in the end, the loan got denied. So maybe it's not so easy to map these things. But yeah, like I said, like I'm very much involved now with AI, with building bespoke solution in that area, and then of course I still have a lot of love for legal innovation and legal design, trying to kind of like combine these things together. And maybe that's something that I'm like most interested in at the moment, is something that I call agentic legal design. And that's what's actually like very, that's exciting to me, because for years I've like done different kind of stuff and I've tried to combine these in a way, but it's not easy to combine Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym with legal innovation. You know that, like
Yeah.
it's a different difficult thing. But now I think that human-centered design combined with this powerful AI technology, this could create something magical. So this is maybe perhaps the first time that I can maybe combine a little bit of these like different interests and different worlds, and I think that's something that I'm really interested about. So kind of like if you think of my example of law firms full of lawyers, or diversity bringing out different kind of ideas, I think with agentic systems, if you think of multi-agent AI teams, they can simulate these roles, they can iterate very rapidly and test ideas. Suddenly it's very easy to imagine this kind of like lawyer agent, designer agent, or user research agent all working together in fast cycles, maybe testing ideas, simulating these kind of conversations. So you can maybe bring that kind of like collaboration and that kind of diversity also to the world of AI, the world of agents, in a way that I feel was really impossible before, because it's difficult to run a law firm with these kind of like diverse personalities and diverse backgrounds. With AI, it's much simpler.
So for people that are kind of getting up to speed, let's break that down a little bit. And
Mm,
and I'm glad that we're transitioning to the AI agent discussion because it's something I want to talk with you about. So, there's different ideas of agents. Like there's basically where you take an AI, you apply it to a workflow, and
mm,
some people have called that, an agent. Others are a little stricter in like how they define an agent. And there's this whole debate. Of course, lawyers are very particular about the words and how you define what an agent is or isn't. But one type of agent is one that's like completely autonomous and does everything
mm.
on its own. When you're talking about it within kind of like the law firm context, what do you have in mind?
Well, like you said, there are many different ways of describing these things, and as lawyers, we are very like keen to describe something in a very strict manner. But for me, I think agents have two things in common. They have some kind of autonomy to do decisions, and usually they have some kind of tools in their disposal to actually like do these things. And this opens quite a lot of space for creativity too. So it's not necessarily just automation of the old stuff, but actually completely reimagine of what is possible in legal work. So that's what's exciting. But of course, we should tread carefully. I'm very realistic of where we are at the moment, and being in the trenches, I know what agents can do and what they can't do. But of course, we're building for the next couple of years, and I think that in a way, the new foundational models also get a little bit better with every release. And that being just a little bit better, that compounds very easily when you're working with agents. So suddenly the agents, all of the agents are a little bit better in every step that they take. And that might seem like we're not getting anywhere with the new models, but in the agentic world, like when it compounds, when all of the agents are just tiny bit better or just make tiny bit better decisions, it just adds up.
One thing in which like agents and the technology is getting better is that when we talk about AI, like just generative GPTs, right? Usually the limitation is the context window. It's like how much
Mm,
information can you put into it?
mm,
With agents, it's really about attention span. It's like how long can it keep the thread of what it's working
sure,
on for a length of
sure.
time? And that's the mark of it getting better and better. Like I think Anthropic was talking about they're even up to like 7 hours of, you know,
Yeah,
flow
yeah,
time,
yeah,
of focus time.
yeah, yeah.
And so that's only going to get better. But one thing I want to ask you is that for lawyers that are watching this, that this is like way on the bleeding edge for them. When you talk about like multiple agents working and helping a lawyer to see things different ways, can you give them a concrete example of how would they use this in their everyday work? Like how would a multi-agent system help them? How does it help you?
Well, it might help lawyers by taking the whole like line of work outside of their hands. So if you think of like now the idea with AI, it's more like a centaur type of thing where you have the lawyer and then the AI tool. And then the lawyer uses the AI tool to draft the contract, for example. It's very much like a collaboration with the lawyer and the very powerful tools that they are using. I think that agents operate a little bit differently. It's more of a colleague for you, colleague that does something for you, does like the whole workflow for you. And you can maybe think of like these very easy, monotonous workflows that you might have during the day. That, if you would just have somebody to assist you, somebody to help you out a little bit, and they would do just everything from start to end themselves, whether it's like, I don't know, cleaning up the Excel sheets or I don't know, doing something tedious or repetitive or something like that. That's how I see agents working. So it's not only you and the tool, but it's like your little helper, your colleague who is very literal and might have a bad attention span at this point, but it's still there to help you out with these like complete workflows. So that's how I would categorize agents and tools. They're a little bit like a different in terms of like analogy. I think that they are a little bit different. That's how I would like maybe categorize them.
And the idea of using like having a multi-agent system
Mm,
sounds like what you're describing is like having multiple of them running on different tasks in parallel, essentially,
yes.
so that you could accomplish so much more in a day than you could on your own or just with one or two colleagues.
Yeah, for sure. And these might like productivity wise, they might be like super, super good. But also I'm not so much into optimizing the old stuff anymore. So I like I said, I care about completely reimagine what legal work could be. And in terms of like if we continue the analogy of agents being your colleagues or workers or something like that, I also don't want to employ only lawyer agents, right? I'm not really maybe employing them, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
So I want to focus on making better end products. Like I think that we are compounding the mistakes that we're making if we are only focusing on legal agents, because the legal agents are going to look at the problem from one perspective and one perspective only, which is the legal perspective. But if you work with actual clients, as a lawyer, you know that clients don't measure the quality of legal work the same as lawyers might measure it, right? So I want to preserve this kind of like legal design idea where the outcomes could be still human-centered or easily legible, or they wouldn't have like legal jargon or something like that through these multi-agent systems. So maybe we're employing a research agent or a client satisfaction agent, or I don't know, designer agent, something like that.
That's fascinating. You know, Professor Richard Susskind, he talks about, there's different levels of transformation. The first being automation, which is, building a faster horse kind of thing. And
Mm.
the second one that you're talking about, innovation, where you're actually innovating. It's not just plugging in AI, but it's using it to help you think differently. And I think that idea, of course, it evades us sometimes, but putting the client first, like putting putting the client first, not the lawyer, not it being lawyer centric, but it being client centric, and then looking at it through that lens, like what are the different people that we want in the room, or the different agents that we want in the room to make that better.
That's exactly the idea that I'm proposing here. Like we should, and that's maybe the new way of doing this kind of like human-centered law, is that we make sure that the agents can collaborate and the agents have diverse ideas, because then the end results are also diverse. And that's like really fascinating to me. And if we think of like, I don't know, let's think of a simple tool that automates your NDAs, right? At some point you might ask, like, do we need an NDA at all? Like, why are we
Mm.
even having these NDAs? So I think that we should really think carefully now that we have the chance, like, to a little bit reimagine the legal work, like really think of what lawyers are here to do and what kind of legal work we should automate or do, so we don't end up automating the stupid shit that we've done for decades, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think this all ties in perfectly to your book, Prompted. Why, what brought you to write a book, and what is it about?
I mean, the hint is in the name. It's about prompting, right? So, but it's really like when GPT-3 came out, we did a prompting course. We did, I think it was called Prompting for Lawyers or something like that, and it became super popular. Like over 3,000 people attended it from 60 different countries. Like widely popular, probably not because it was so good, but because we were one of the first ones, right? So it became really popular. And from those ideas, I started writing a book. I thought like, okay, this might be something that I would need to explore a little bit more. And it seems to resonate in pretty much everywhere. And of course, book cycles are very, very long. So
Mm.
this book is written in early 2005, a little bit in 2004 too. So some of the ideas that were revolutionary back then are just regular and normal ideas at the moment. But I think it's held up pretty well. It's not about really writing prompts, but learning how to think together with AI. And I think that's a like skill that's really crucial for pretty much everything now, right? Like not to learn how to prompt the machine or command the machine better, but how to kind of like co-create or co-think with these tools. And that's a really, really good skill. And this is very accessible for everyday people, for regular people, because I'm not a tech person myself. So I think that I've managed to capture that kind of like a regular person's view nicely into the book. I'm it's a good book. I think that everybody should get it for Christmas. Kids are going to cry when they get this book for Christmas.
It needs to be a stocking stuffer, prompted
Yeah, for
right
sure.
there
For
for
sure. For
Santa.
sure.
Well, I'm hoping to get it this year.
You're
Um,
going to get it. You're going to get it for many years because I'm going to have plenty of these books. Everybody's going to get the same book for several years.
awesome. Well, there's also a lot of updates to roll out every year
Sure.
if you to keep up with everything. Okay, so it's about thinking with AI. It's about using it as a collaborative, a collaborator, a colleague. And I think way too many people think of it as magic and think of it as an oracle, something that they may, wave a magic wand and it just solves things for them. That mentality really is the problem. I think by you putting them front and center and actually engaging back and forth with the AI is a better mindset for everyone to look at it that way. What's one example from the book that you think kind of drives that point home?
Well, I think the best parts of the book are the ones where you don't really. I mean, there's a lot of talk in legal about the use cases of AI, but honestly, that feels a little bit weird to me that talk about use cases because the tech is so powerful that pretty much everything could be a use case. The real use case isn't some like narrow tasks or contract type or you get value out of it when you automate NBAs. The use case is you. It's the person using it. I've seen lawyers, juniors and seniors completely change how they think or write or solve problems by learning to how to use AI properly. So this is maybe the most powerful instinct that you are not commanding something. You are not using a tool, but you're actually like prompting yourself. You are trying to evolve together with these tools. The use case is you. You are the person using it, and you're not outsourcing your thinking or your personality to the machine, but letting it like really, co-create, co-think with you. And that's the most effective thing that I've ever seen when the human actually levels up because they're thinking with the tool and not just using it as a shortcut.
And so, along with the book and Legit and Legal Design Summit and like everything else that you're working on, you consult with clients about this, right? Like you teach people
Yes,
actively.
yes.
To the extent that you can talk about it, like what's one experience that you remember about talking to people about this different way of approaching AI, and did it open people's minds? Like what's some of the reaction that you've gotten?
Well, it's usually the reaction is almost always when people start using AI, the first reaction is almost always negative. Because AI hallucinates, the first results are full of mistakes. Maybe your prompting isn't at that level. Maybe you're giving a little bit, less context than you should. The first results are always disappointing. And that's what I try to hammer to people's heads also, that you should learn how to use AI in an iterative way. And I've seen this one many times, to happen that when people actually start using it in that way, that they are having like real meaningful discussions with AI, then their mind starts opening up and then they stop commanding the tool. They stop like asking stupid questions or making stupid demands to the tool that the tool doesn't answer magically, like you said. And that's how people usually level up here by embracing this kind of like mentality of building context together with the tool, to thinking together with the tool. And the response is always the same. First, it's very negative, and when people start to actually build context together with the tool, then it almost always becomes like a positive experience.
What most excites you about what you're seeing right now with AI and what the future holds for it?
Well, I think that, we are entering into that phase where AI is pretty much in every lawyer's toolkit. The next one that excites me is perhaps, the next idea that we're working towards is perhaps the AI native law firms. That's exciting to me, but maybe even after that one, I'm interested in the self-driving law firms, like the Waymo for law. you know, because that's not perhaps that far away. We could already technically automate some of the things that law firms do and do those things really, really well. But obviously not everything. But little by little, I think that we could build these kind of like multi-agent systems that simulate actually pretty well these law firms. And then, little by little work towards this kind of like Waymo for law firms where it's actually the core thing is done without drivers or without lawyers. And people tend to forget that Waymo employs a lot of people. Like I don't know how many people. There's no drivers perhaps in Waymo, but there's like, I don't know, 10,000 people working for them or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to automate all the lawyers away. Maybe they can work doing something else, but the legal work itself, that's what I'm really interested in, building these self-driving law firms.
That's fascinating, and it also ties into that leaked memo from OpenAI about the 5 levels of AI progress, and the last
Yeah.
two, the 4 and 5, 4 being innovators and 5 being organizations, right? Where it's actually
Mm.
running an entire organization. And you,
There is one level above that one where we don't really, I mean, in Waymo, there's always a passenger, right? But in the next phase of this evolution, we're probably going to automate also the client in a way. The clients are probably, and this is not only my idea, I think that most of the attention that we're going to get, and perhaps most of the financial decisions that are going to be made in, I don't know, if I say a timeline, it's going to be wrong, but quite soon, a lot of the attention is going to be AI attention, right? And a lot of the times that people are going to buy something, it's going to happen through AI or through AI agents. So by optimizing for these agents that are actually the clients of the future, I think that's maybe the next step. When we optimize the lawyers away, then we start to maybe optimize the clients also away, or preparing for that kind of scenario where the clients are also agents. And that's also fascinating because what are these things going to buy from us? What are they looking for? I'm pretty sure that they're not going to get an NDA. It's like very, very, it's fascinating. Of course, it's science fiction at this point, but it's fascinating to think like, okay, what would AI actually buy from us? What would it buy from human lawyers, or what would it buy from other agents, my agents in my self-driving law firm?
yeah, when you have agents on both sides of the equation, that that
Exactly.
that is a philosophical question.
For
Can you?
sure. I'm a philosophy dropout. Remember, I haven't graduated.
Well, I love the fact that you do have that background though, because that's what I've majored in, and
Okay,
I think this is a very philosophical time right now, because
for
it's
sure.
making us think to rethink a lot of our assumptions. But with that, I want to ask you a couple of questions that I ask of all my guests. The first one is definitely applicable to you, which is that you have a lot of interests, a lot of things that you're pursuing simultaneously, and kind of like a helpful, trick or hint or point of view that you have might be, how do you keep it balanced? How do you do all of these things and stay sane?
That's a good, very thoughtful question. And honestly, no, I don't know for sure. And maybe the things that I'm doing might not be applicable for all the persons, but pretty much all my days are the same. I always take the kids to school. I drive them to school. School is pretty close. I wouldn't have to drive them there but I think that's a fun way to start the day. So that always starts my day. At 9 o'clock, I drop my kids to school, and that's where my day begins. Then usually I'll work a little bit, then I go do a little bit of jujitsu during the day, and then I'll pick up the kids from school. And when I'm in my car, I always call everybody. Just when that's one of my hacks. I just call everybody. I try to use that time when I'm driving. I think it's fun to call people. I'm big on the old school, old fashioned phone calls too. right? So I'm just calling people, seeing that everything goes well. Then I'll do a couple of hours of concentrating work with usually with assistance of the best AI tools available, and then in the evening I might send some mails or something like that. But during the day, I don't have the feeling that I do much. My calendar is still quite manageable. I don't. Well, this is one of my hacks. I don't use calendar really. Like I just don't put anything on my calendar. That keeps your calendar very clean, right? Because it's you can always think of it like, okay, let's have a team meeting next week or something like that. I go like, could I just call you and we'll just figure it out in 5 minutes? And that way I'll keep my calendar clean. I just do old-fashioned phone calls and refuse to take these like 15-minute Teams calls that clutter my day.
Well, I think those are great words of wisdom, and I appreciate you being on this call with me today. Which leads me to the last question that I ask everyone, and it's kind of related to what you were just talking about, which is, after all of these pursuits, at the end of the
Mm.
day, like really, what makes this worthwhile for you right now?
I mean, that's a very, very good question also. And I think that for me, it's like I want to fight the good fight. I want to like for some reason, I don't know why, but I have this like feeling like I need to do something meaningful. I need to feel like I'm fighting the good fight. I'm at that point of my career where I don't need much. I have my old car. I do the jiu-jitsu. Doesn't cost me anything. Like I'm over of being like very like financially successful or anything like that. But I just want to do something meaningful, and that's something that really drives. Maybe that's a sign of getting old or something like that. But I found that that's become more and more my thing to do something that is meaningful, and then focus less on those things that I'm not really feeling, or the things that I feel like could be like financially maybe lucrative, but ultimately like meaningless for me. So I think that that's maybe that what keeps me doing this. And of course, not all days are full of sunshine, although we have 300 days of sunshine here in Alicante. So sometimes it's just like banging out. Sometimes it's the routine that helps a little bit. Sometimes when you have bad days, it's just the routine that I'm going like, okay, Antti, do your job, and that keeps me going. Also, some days that I'm not feeling, you know, the work so much.
Well, Antti, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me. It's a pleasure to get to know you better. And for everyone that's been watching that wants to learn more about you and Prompted and everything that you're doing, how can they keep in touch with you?
Well, they can send like you can send me a LinkedIn DM. That's by far the easiest way. I answer every DM that I get. That's pretty much the easiest way. Then, if you want to learn more, go to legit website, go to dot website. You'll find new, information from there. If you're interested in legal design, go to legaldesignschool.com. And yeah, that's the easiest way. Or just give me an old-fashioned phone call. I will pick it up.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching the latest episode of the LawDroid Manifesto podcast. To keep in the loop about upcoming episodes, please subscribe to LawDroid Manifesto and you'll get notified. Thanks for watching. See you next time.